Hello YouTube, this is part 2 to the previous video. In this video I'm going to be talking about the first week and orientation for Schneider's CDL School or Apprenticeship Training Program. My name is Ash and Kyle is over there in the background playing his Switch. He's my team driving partner. And we are West Coast Turnaround. We flew in on Sunday and orientation started on Monday. Orientation was just one day for us. We are training at Indianapolis at the Indy Operating Center, the Indy OC. So day one, the bus picked us up from the hotel at 5:45 and 6. I think they had 2 going. Basically, they run 2 if they have to, otherwise they just run 1. So just show up in the lobby at if you want breakfast in the lobby, show up at 5, and so you can be picked up by 5:45. Then you go and we sat in the cafeteria for an hour, and the class started at 7. During the first day of orientation, we had to show our IDs. You have to bring your permit and 2 other forms of ID, and then we filled out a lot of paperwork. We also did emerge testing, which is where they hook a bunch of electrodes up to you and have you do a series of movements. So that way they can see where your muscles fire at. And so in the event that you get hurt, they know kind of the standing level of where you were at initially, so they can bring you back to that level, and also to prevent insurance fraud. So make sure you bring a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. If you're a guy, it seemed like they had a pair of shorts for you there, but they did not have.
Bring your own. They were pretty shitty.
Yeah, they didn't have anything there for me. So thankfully I had brought my own, but even if it's winter, bring a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, because the electrodes go all up your legs and your neck and your back. The remainder of the day was spent doing computer-based trainings or CBTs. There's a lot that you have to work through, obviously. There's a lot of training videos. So that's what we did the majority of the first day. You do get a lunch break. They give you a meal card with 2 meals on it a day. So if you're on the morning shift, you can have breakfast at the hotel. You can have lunch at the cafeteria, which is your first punch. And then your second punch, you can get a meal before you leave, which would be like a dinner. So you get fed 3 meals a day in that case. If you are on the night shift where you start at 1:00 p.m., you can still have breakfast in the hotel. Your lunch would be a bit delayed starting at 1, but, and you can eat before your shift starts at 2. So you show up at 1, eat, shift starts at 2, and that's 1 meal punch. And then your third meal punch, or your second meal punch, your last meal punch would be lunch break, which would be more like dinner time. First day is just being in a classroom, really, so you don't have to dress like super warm or anything. You're not really gonna be outside, at least we weren't. On day 2, our shift changed, which was weird. It wasn't supposed to, but we were taken over to the OC, and we met up with our trainer, and he reviewed a little bit of the pre-trip inspection, but he just kind of pointed out some parts in the truck, and then we jumped in and we drove. So be aware that you're, for the most part, going to be thrown into a truck to drive pretty quickly. We had been under the impression that we would drive on the simulator before we were actually driving in the truck, but that was not the case for every student. So just listen to what your trainer says. They're going to be full of great information. Ask all of the questions that you have, and you should be okay. But just be aware that you're going to be driving pretty quickly. At least that was how it worked for us. So day 2, we just spent driving. Kyle drove first. You'll be paired up with 3 or 4 other students. It was just Kyle and I. Typically we were told, and be aware, if you're team driving and you bring your partner, you're likely going to be split. They seemed to have some mix-ups with us, so we have been training together the whole time. Kyle drove first, and then we took a lunch, and then it was my turn to drive, but our trailer brakes didn't work, so we were in the shop the rest of the day, and the next morning, which was day 3. So I drove the next morning because I hadn't driven the day before, and then did you drive after that? Yeah, Kyle drove after me, and then we had lunch, and then our trainer had a family emergency, So we were checked with some of the other students who already had their CDLs, and we did a backing demo. So we were given a full in-depth explanation on how to back, and then I backed and Kyle backed, and then the other students backed. So that took up the majority of the rest of the day. Day 4, we were kind of just chucked into a hodgepodge of other students because they can't drive everybody all at once. So we were kind of stuck with the overflow. So for the first 4 hours of our shift, we were doing backing with like 15 other students. Almost everyone got to go. I got to go, Kyle went. Our backing practice was interrupted because we had to, well, the trainer had to move a couple trailers. So we did get to see a coupling and uncoupling speed demo. I'm still a little rusty on that, but we did get shown how to couple and uncouple, and then we went back to backing. Then we had lunch, and we did a pre-trip demo after that. So the instructor, and these are all different instructors, mind you. This instructor walked us through an entire pre-trip, and we took notes on our study guides, and she just really went in depth, and there's a lot to know. So be aware. I am not mechanically inclined. I could not say anything under the hood of a car, let alone a truck or a semi-truck before coming to school. Kyle, on the other hand, has rebuilt a 7.3 truck, so he piece of shit. He kind of knew generalized parts, but if memorizing 100 plus pieces of information on a truck and a trailer is not your forte, you may want to study a little bit beforehand and just get familiarized with the parts of a fifth wheel, because if it's all thrown at you all at once, it might be a little overwhelming. And it is for me as well, but there's plenty of time to study, and we've got 5 weeks to be out here and learn it all. But just be aware, if you also are not mechanically inclined like me, it may be worth taking a look over a diagram of a truck so you have somewhat of a heads up before you get here. We also had to take a Hazmat certification, not to be confused with a Hazmat endorsement. The Hazmat certification essentially allows us to take any amount under the requirement for placards on a truck and trailer. So if you're carrying hairspray, anything like flammable, like sometimes you'll haul stuff for Dollar General, let's say, and it's hairspray, or what other examples did she say? Batteries, butane, just small amounts. Again, still not requiring placards. You don't have to go to DMV and get your Hazmat endorsement, but Schneider just wants you to be aware of the safety concerns even when you haul items of that nature. So it's essentially a 30-minute video. I need to stop saying essentially. It's basically a 30-minute video, and then you take a 10-question quiz. It's open book. You only get 3 tries though. After try 3, they send you home. So pay attention to the video when you watch it. If you fail it, you probably shouldn't be driving a truck. That's all I'll say. Okay, day 5. We spent the first half of the shift in the classroom finishing up our CBTs and studying pre-trip. And then I drove with a new trainer. This drive took about like an hour and 45 minutes. We went pretty far. And then we had lunch, which was an hour. Lunch is usually anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. I don't think it's supposed to be 2 hours, but we've had kind of an unorthodox experience here due to scheduling changes because our first trainer had to leave, and it's just been kind of weird. But that aside, expect an hour lunch. So Kyle drove, and then we did the simulator training. So it was on day 5 that we did simulator training, and we had already driven the truck. The simulator training is just to emulate situations that can't be experienced on the road, generally with the driver or with the instructor. So, you know, blowouts of tires, skids, weather, things like that. The simulator made me very sick. It made Kyle pretty sick as well. It just makes you kind of dizzy and nauseous. But the simulator is optional, so if while you're on it, just tell your instructor that you're not feeling well and you don't have to do it, you can just watch. On day 6, which would have been Saturday at this point, we came in the morning and we had a brief on the electronic logging devices, or the ELDs. It was basically an explanation for about an hour of how they work. And then the rest of the day would have been given to us to finish our CBTs, but we were already done, so we got taken back to the hotel. Some students had to stay, but we were already done, so we didn't have to stay. So overall, that was our experience for week 1. It was very weird because we had multiple ships changes, which I don't think is very usual, but that's what we experienced. So be aware that when you come out here, you're on Schneider's time, and so when you're told to show up, you show up, and if you're told to wait for an hour, you wait for an hour. If you're told to wait for 2 hours, you wait for 2 hours. If you're told to come out to the yard, you go to the yard. It shouldn't have to be said, but Schneider's your new boss. Schneider's your new god, that's how Kyle put it. So you're at their beck and call, basically. All of the instructors are very good. We've had a couple, I mean, you're not going to get along with everybody, obviously, is all I'll say, but they're very open to questions. They're all very knowledgeable. Just take in all of the information that you can from anybody with experience. We've sat by a couple drivers at lunch, which was nice because we got to pick their brains. So just be friendly, engage with the students who you're training with, and just have a good time. I don't think anyone wants to spend 5 weeks to be in Indiana, but here we are doing it. So overall, we're having a great time, and we'll see what week 2 holds for us, and there will be a video for week 2. So if you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I'll definitely answer it for you. And if there's any other videos you want, definitely leave suggestions. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next video. Bye!